Dance with me, now. It's the only way to avoid a scene. Serena Whitaker doesn't flinch. 3 years of negotiating hostage releases in Bogota taught her to read desperation in a man's eyes. And this man, whoever he is, carries the specific brand of panic that comes from having everything to lose. The Shilla Hotel ballroom glitters around them like a jewelry box, crystal chandeliers refracting light onto 300 people wearing silk and ambition. She came to this corporate gala because her consultant contract required networking visibility, but now a stranger in a charcoal suit stands 12 inches from her, hand extended, while 3 men circle him like sharks. One of those men raises a phone, camera angle deliberate. The second talks loud enough for surrounding guests to turn their heads, voice pitched to Carrie. "Chairman Han, is it true you're selling the maritime division to Chinese investors?" A fabricated accusation designed to detonate. The third blocks the exit route, smiling. Serena catalogs the tactical geometry. Security guards push through the crowd but won't arrive in time. The man in gray assessed his options in 2 seconds and chose her. A calculated gamble. She sets her champagne glass on a passing tray and meets his eyes. One song. Then you tell me who you are and why I just became collateral damage in your corporate war. His hand finds her waist. They move onto the floor, and it's not romance. It's battlefield chess. He uses a spin to position them away from the camera's direct line. She controls the tempo to cut across the provocateur's sightline. Between beats, he murmurs, "You dance well for someone who hates being here." She responds without dropping her public smile. "You lie poorly for someone who's clearly practiced." The waltz ends. A man in a black suit with an earpiece appears, face drained of color, and speaks low but audibly. "Chairman Han, the situation is contained. We need to leave now." Chairman Han. The name requires no surname in South Korea. Han Ji-hoon, CEO of Hansong Group, the man on Forbes Asia's cover 3 years running. The signature that moves $17 billion with a single stroke. And Serena just danced with him, smiling, while cameras recorded everything. Ji-hoon looks at her with an expression she can't decode and says before security escorts him away, "Thank you for the dance, Ms. Whitaker. See you tomorrow." She never gave him her name. Or, if you've ever wondered what happens when one decision pulls you into a world where every move is watched and every silence has consequences, stay with this story. Because Serena Whitaker is about to discover that avoiding one scene just wrote her into an entire drama she never auditioned for. Subscribe to hear more stories where a single moment changes everything. Morning arrives with violence. Serena's phone detonates at 6:47 a.m. 43 notifications in 12 minutes. She reaches for it with the muscle memory of someone accustomed to crisis calls, expects maybe a client emergency in Frankfurt or Nairobi, and instead sees her own face. The dance photo is everywhere. Naver, Daum, every portal using the same inflammatory headline. Hansong CEO Han Ji-hoon and mysterious foreign woman in intimate moment at charity gala. The image captures a lie perfectly. Her hand on his shoulder, his palm at her waist. Both of them looking at each other with what the angle suggests is tenderness, but was actually mutual assessment. The caption speculates, American consultant, no clear corporate affiliation, age approximately 30, dress estimated at $3,000. They've already constructed a narrative from Pixels and Kong Chi. Claire Jiang calls 30 seconds later, voice cutting through before Serena finishes her greeting. Tell me you know who Han Ji-hoon is. Tell me this is a planned consulting contract, and not you accidentally becoming Korea's most gossiped about foreigner since that actress married into the Chibol family. Serena moves to her laptop, already pulling up background files. I know who he is now. Last night I knew him as a man avoiding an orchestrated confrontation. She scans the search results. Hansong Group, founded 1962, annual revenue $43 billion, sectors including shipbuilding, renewable energy, telecommunications, and luxury hotels. Han Ji-hoon became CEO at 32 after his father's sudden death, youngest chairman in the conglomerate's history. Serena. Claire's tone shifts from urgent to worried. The event you attended last night? It's now the subject of a corporate intelligence investigation. Someone leaked word that Hanseong is being internally audited for foreign investment irregularities. The dance photo is being used as evidence that Ji-hoon is emotionally compromised. The pieces align with ugly clarity. The three men, the camera, the deliberately loud accusation about Chinese investors. Not a random confrontation, a staged incident designed to create a narrative. And she walked straight into the frame. "I need everything you can find on Hanseong's board structure," Serena says, already opening encrypted files. "Shareholders, dissenters, anyone with motive to destabilize Han Ji-hoon's position. This wasn't about a photograph. This was about manufacturing a crisis." Claire exhales slowly. "I'll send what I have in an hour. But Serena? Be careful. Chaebols don't play corporate politics. They wage war, and you just got caught in the crossfire." The call ends. Serena stares at the photo, at the manufactured intimacy, at the way a single dance became a weapon. She thinks about the man's eyes when he said her name, like he'd already researched her, already knew exactly who she was before he crossed that ballroom floor. This wasn't chance, this was calculated, and now she needs to know why. Han Ji-hoon walks into Serena's temporary office at 9:23 a.m. without knocking. No assistant, no warning. Just the door opening and South Korea's most powerful CEO standing in her modest rented workspace like he has every right to be there. He wears a navy suit today, perfectly tailored, and carries a leather folder that probably costs more than her monthly rent. "We need to talk," he says in English, accent crisp from years at Stanford. "And before you tell me to make an appointment, understand that you became a person of interest to 17 different parties the moment that photo went viral." Serena doesn't stand, doesn't offer him a seat. "You knew my name last night before I introduced myself. You knew where I work. This address isn't public. So let's skip the part where you pretend this is a courtesy call and move directly to what you want." Ji-hoon's expression doesn't change, but something shifts in his eyes. Recognition, maybe, or respect. He sets the folder on her desk. "I'm offering you a consultancy contract. 6 months. International mediation specialist, focused on Hanseong Group's corporate restructuring and public positioning for our sustainability initiative. I don't work for chaebols," Serena says flatly, "and I especially don't work for CEOs who use me as props in their corporate theater without consent. You think I planned that?" Ji-hoon's voice stays level, but anger flickers underneath. "Last night was an ambush. Director Kang Seung-ho orchestrated it. He's been on Hanseong's board for 20 years, was my father's closest advisor, and is currently leading a campaign to remove me before our sustainability vote." Serena opens the folder. Inside, a dossier with her name, her career history, her father's corporate scandal from 8 years ago. The pages detail how Robert Whitaker, senior VP at Morrison Technologies, was destroyed by fabricated evidence of embezzlement. Evidence later proven false, but only after his career and health had been annihilated. "Where did you get this?" she asks quietly, voice dangerous. "Same source that's now investigating you," Ji-hoon says. "Director Kang compiled it. You're listed as a person of interest in his internal memo about foreign influences on Hanseong leadership." The room goes cold. "I'm being framed. Not a question, a recognition." "Not yet," Ji-hoon corrects, "but you will be if you stay unprotected. Kang's strategy is to paint me as emotionally unstable. A CEO who makes impulsive decisions, brings foreign consultants into sensitive corporate matters, potentially compromises company security for personal relationships. We don't have a relationship." Serena's words are ice. The photograph says otherwise. Ji-hoon meets her gaze. And in Korea, perception is power. By the time truth catches up to narrative, the damage is done. Serena stands, moves to the window. Seoul stretches below, towers of glass and steel, a city built on appearances and hierarchies. She thinks about her father, about how quickly a reputation built over 30 years can be dismantled by whispers and manufactured evidence. "Why me?" she asks without turning. "You had other options in that ballroom." Because you didn't hesitate, Ji-hoon says simply. You assessed the situation, set your terms, and executed without panic. That's not common. And because I researched you after seeing your name on the gala attendance list, I knew if Kang tried something, you'd be the only person in that room who'd understand tactics over emotion. She faces him. You used me. Yes. No apology in his voice. And now I'm offering you protection, a substantial contract, and a chance to dismantle the same kind of corruption that destroyed your father. The silence stretches. Finally, Serena says, I want full access to board meeting records, financial audits, and personnel files for every executive involved in this sustainability vote. I want veto power over any public statement that includes my name, and I want it in writing that if this goes sideways, Hansung Group assumes all legal liability. Ji-hoon's mouth almost curves into a smile. Done. My attorney will have contracts ready by this afternoon. He turns to leave, then pauses at the door. For what it's worth, Ms. Whitaker, I didn't want to involve you, but wars are rarely fought by soldiers who volunteered. The door closes. Serena looks down at the dossier, at her father's name, at the pattern repeating itself across years and continents. She's in now. The only question is whether she's walking into a trap or building one. The restaurant Ji-hoon chooses for their working dinner is the kind of place that doesn't have a sign. Serena arrives at the Gangnam address to find a traditional hanok hidden behind a modern facade, the type of establishment where cabinet ministers and chaebol heirs negotiate deals away from cameras. A private room awaits. Low table, floor cushions, door that slides shut with the weight of secrecy. Ji-hoon is already there, jacket removed, shirt sleeves rolled to his forearms. For the first time since she met him, he looks almost human. Tired, the carefully maintained facade cracking at the edges. I ordered the chef's selection, he says. Unless you have dietary restrictions I should know about. I don't drink alcohol, Serena states, settling across from him with the grace of someone accustomed to navigating foreign customs. Everything else is fine. She doesn't explain why, and he doesn't ask. The first sign of respect they've actually exchanged. The food arrives in courses. Banchan, grilled fish, perfectly seasoned soup. They eat in silence for the first 10 minutes, a peculiar intimacy in the absence of conversation. Finally, Ji-hoon sets down his chopsticks. The sustainability vote happens in 3 weeks. Project Phoenix, full corporate restructuring toward renewable energy, phase out of fossil fuel investments, conversion of 2 shipyards to green tech manufacturing. Which cuts short-term profits, Serena fills in, and threatens anyone invested in the old revenue streams. Exactly. Ji-hoon's voice is flat. 40% of the board opposes it. Director Kang leads that faction. He's convinced conservative shareholders that Phoenix is my American idealism, destroying my father's legacy. Serena leans back, studying him. But it's not idealism, is it? You've run projections. Phoenix isn't about ethics. It's about survival. Fossil fuel regulations tighten globally every quarter. You either transition now while you control the timeline, or you get forced into it later when the market dictates terms. Ji-hoon's expression shifts. Surprise. Quickly masked. You understand chaebols. I understand power structures. Serena corrects. Chaebols aren't unique. The names change, the languages vary, but dynastic corporations follow the same patterns everywhere. Generational trauma, sunk cost fallacies, and old men terrified of irrelevance. For the first time, Ji-hoon laughs, a short, genuine sound. Director Kang is 62, joined Hansung when my father founded the shipbuilding division. He sees Phoenix as erasure of everything they built. And he sees you as the son who doesn't respect his father's memory, Serena adds. Classic succession conflict, except he's not your father, which means his authority is borrowed. That makes him dangerous. He has proximity to power but no legitimate claim, so he'll sabotage the heir to preserve his own relevance. Ji-hoon goes still. You just described my entire childhood. The room feels smaller suddenly. Serena reaches for her tea. The dance wasn't his first move. What else has he done? Leaked confidential merger discussions to competitors, anonymously contacted journalists with concerns about my leadership stability, convinced 3 board members I'm too young, too foreign educated, too influenced by Western consultants. Ji-hoon's jaw tightens. And now he has a photograph of me dancing with a beautiful American woman at a public event, which confirms every narrative he's been building. The word beautiful hangs between them, unacknowledged. Serena moves past it. He'll escalate. Men like Kang don't stop at whispers. They detonate. What's his nuclear option? Ji-hoon meets her eyes. A fabricated recording. My voice, edited from dozens of board meetings and investor calls, made to sound like I'm planning mass layoffs to inflate stock prices before a personal exit. Jesus. Serena's composure cracks for a second. That's not corporate politics. That's character assassination. That's chaebol warfare, Ji-hoon says quietly. And it's coming. We have maybe 72 hours before he releases it. The door slides open. Not their server, but a camera flash. Paparazzi somehow breached the private entrance, snapping photos before security tackles them. Ji-hoon's face goes blank, professional mask slamming back into place. But Serena knows the damage is done. Tomorrow's headline writes itself. Secret affair or business strategy. CEO Han Dines with American consultant in hidden restaurant. They've been played again. Serena spends the next 48 hours building a case file that would make prosecutors weep. Claire feeds her information through encrypted channels. Director Kang's financial ties, his offshore accounts, the pattern of investments that profit when Hanseong's stock dips. Secretary Lee Min-jae, Ji-hoon's assistant, loyal as a guard dog, provides internal meeting recordings, email chains, the digital breadcrumbs of betrayal. The evidence is damning. Kang has been positioning himself for a coup for at least 18 months, building alliances with older shareholders who remember when chaebols operated with imperial impunity. He's leveraged nostalgia into power, turning the chairman's legacy into a weapon against the chairman's son. But when Serena presents the findings to Ji-hoon in his office, glass walls overlooking Seoul, minimalist furniture that costs more than most people's cars, his reaction isn't what she expects. He goes pale. Actually pale. No, he says flatly. Kang wouldn't. The financial records don't lie, Serena insists, spreading documents across his desk. He shorted Hanseong stock 3 times in the past year, always right before negative press emerged. He profits from your company's pain. Kang taught me how to negotiate my first contract. Ji-hoon's voice sounds distant. He was at my father's funeral, stayed until the last guest left. The sentence dies. Serena recognizes the look. Betrayal is always worse when it wears a familiar face. I know this is hard, she says, gentler than usual. But sentiment doesn't change facts. He's been sabotaging you while playing mentor. That's not loyalty. That's long-term manipulation. Before Ji-hoon can respond, Secretary Lee bursts through the door, tablet extended, face stricken. Chairman, you need to hear this, now. The recording plays on speakerphone. Ji-hoon's voice, crisp and clear. Project Phoenix's cover. The real strategy is workforce reduction. Cut 30%, offshore manufacturing, maximize quarterly returns before I move the primary accounts offshore. Words he never said. Sentences constructed from syllables harvested across months of meetings, stitched together into a confession of corporate evil. The recording is perfect. Too perfect. It would convince anyone who didn't know Ji-hoon personally. And for the thousands of Hanseong employees who only know him as the young CEO with foreign degrees and American manners, it will sound like truth. When does this go public? Ji-hoon asks, voice mechanical. Kang's sending it to labor unions and media outlets tonight, Lee says. We have maybe 6 hours. Serena's mind races through options. Can we get an injunction, claim defamation, file for emergency relief? Courts take days, Ji-hoon says. We have hours. And even if we block it legally, the damage spreads the moment it hits the first inbox. Lee looks between them. Chairman, your mother called. She wants an emergency family meeting. Tonight. Ji-hoon closes his eyes briefly. When he opens them, something has shifted. The vulnerability gone, replaced by the cold calculation Serena first saw in the ballroom. Tell my mother I'll be there. Serena, you should go. This is about to get very ugly, very fast. I don't run from ugly, Serena says. I negotiate through it. This isn't negotiation. Ji-hoon's gaze holds hers. This is blood sport, and my family doesn't fight fair. But Serena is already gathering the files, her expression set. Good, neither do I. Matriarch Han Soo-jin holds court in the family compound, a sprawling Hanok estate in Seongbuk-dong, where old money whispers through ancient pine trees. Serena wasn't invited to the family meeting, but Ji-hoon insisted she come. Not as decoration, but as witness. If I'm going to be crucified, he told her in the car, I want someone there who understands the difference between justice and execution. The matriarch sits in the main hall, ramrod straight in a modern hanbok of ivory and gray, pearls at her throat like armor. She's 64, but carries herself with the authority of someone who never had to raise her voice to be obeyed. 3 board members flank her. Conservative shareholders who remember when chaebols were kingdoms, not corporations. Ji-hoon enters with Serena 1 step behind, a deliberate positioning. Matriarch Han's eyes flick to Serena, assessment cold as winter. You brought her? Voice perfectly modulated disapproval. Ms. Whitaker is my consultant, Ji-hoon says in Korean, then switches to English, a small rebellion. Anything discussed here affects her professional reputation. Your professional reputation is secondary, one of the board members snaps, also in English. That recording is going to destroy this company's credibility. 20,000 employees, pension funds, shareholder value. All of it burns because you couldn't keep your emotions in check. I never said those words, Ji-hoon states flatly. The recording is fabricated. We have forensic analysts ready to prove it. Proof takes time, Matriarch Han interjects. Scandal spreads instantly. By the time your analysts finish their reports, the narrative will be set. Serena has stayed silent until now, but she recognizes the script being performed. This isn't a strategy meeting. It's a ritual sacrifice. With respect, Matriarch Han, she says, voice steady. The recording's authenticity is secondary to who created it and why. And who do you believe created it? The matriarch's tone could freeze rivers. Director Kang Sung-ho, Serena answers. With the intent of forcing exactly this meeting, where the family and board pressured Ji-hoon to step down voluntarily before the vote. Silence. Then Matriarch Han says, Kang has been with this family for 40 years. He was my husband's most trusted advisor, which makes him the perfect betrayer, Serena counters. Proximity to power isn't the same as loyalty. Sometimes it's just patient positioning. The matriarch's expression doesn't change, but something flickers in her eyes. Recognition, maybe, or old pain. My son has a weakness, she says, addressing Serena directly now. He trusts too easily, believes in reform over tradition, idealism over pragmatism. His father was the same way once. It nearly destroyed him. My father was destroyed by men like Kang, Ji-hoon says quietly. Men who used loyalty as camouflage while building empires inside our empire. Your father learned to control that weakness, Matriarch Han replies. He made difficult choices, sacrificed what was necessary. Her gaze moves to Serena, pointed as a blade. Sometimes that means removing distractions, cutting ties that give enemies ammunition. The message is clear. Serena feels Ji-hoon tense beside her. Mother, he begins. Resolve this, the matriarch interrupts. Publicly distance yourself from her. Make a statement about foreign influence being inappropriate. Give the board and shareholders something traditional, something stable, or I will call for a vote myself. The threat lands like a detonation. If his own mother turns against him, Ji-hoon loses all familial authority. In a chaebol, that's existential. Ji-hoon's voice, when he speaks, is stripped of warmth. I understand. Serena keeps her expression neutral, but inside, calculus runs cold. This is the moment, the choice, and she can see in his eyes that he's already decided. In the car afterward, neither of them speaks for 5 full minutes. Finally, Ji-hoon says, I'm sorry. Don't be, Serena replies, staring out at Seoul's lights. I knew the job was dangerous when I took it, but her voice carries a weight that wasn't there before. Tomorrow, he'll sacrifice her to save himself, and she'll have to decide whether to burn quietly or take them all down with her. The protest appears spontaneous. 200 people outside Hansong Tower by 7 a.m., signs demanding accountability, chanting about corporate greed and betrayed workers. News crews arrive within minutes, cameras trained on the crowd, reporters shouting questions at employees trying to enter the building. The optics are devastating. A company in chaos. A CEO losing control. Serena watches from her hotel room, tablet streaming 4 different news channels simultaneously. The protest is too clean. Signs professionally printed, crowd organized in camera-friendly formations, chants coordinated like a rehearsed performance. She's seen genuine labor uprisings. They're messy, emotional, chaotic. This is theater. Her phone rings. Claire. The protest was organized by a group called Workers for Fair Chaebol Reform, she says without preamble. Founded 6 weeks ago. Guess who's on their board of advisors? Director Kang, Serena finishes. His nephew, actually. Which is functionally the same thing. Claire's typing sounds in the background. They're pushing a narrative that the fake recording is real, that Hanseong employees are about to be sacrificed for profit. It's brilliant, if you're into scorched earth tactics. Serena's jaw tightens. Has Ji-hoon made his statement yet? The public distancing. The sacrifice her presence requires. Press conference scheduled for noon, Claire confirms. Official statement about inappropriate foreign influence on corporate decisions. He's going to gut you publicly to save himself. The words should sting. Instead, Serena feels only the cold clarity that comes before major decisions. Get me everything you can find on Kang's financial network in the next 3 hours. Every account, every offshore holding, every transaction that looks remotely suspicious. I don't care if it's legal. I care if it's exposable. Serena. Claire's voice shifts. What are you planning? He wants to play warfare? Serena says quietly. I'm going to show him what a real strategist looks like. She ends the call and opens her laptop. The press conference is in 5 hours. That's not much time, but it's enough. Serena learned a long time ago that the best counterattacks happen when your opponent thinks you're already defeated. They get sloppy, overconfident, and that's when you strike. She pulls up the fabricated recording, loads it into audio analysis software. If Kang constructed this from spliced audio, there will be artifacts, microsecond gaps, tonal inconsistencies, background noise variations. She just needs to find them and make the evidence undeniable. 3 hours later, she has it. 17 distinct splice points, each one provable with forensic precision. The recording isn't just fake. It's clumsily fake. The work of someone who underestimated how thoroughly his crime would be investigated. Serena sends the analysis to Ji-hoon with a single line of text. Don't make that statement. Trust me one more time. His response comes 30 seconds later. Why would I? She types back. Because I'm about to destroy the man who's been destroying you, but only if you let me. The cursor blinks. No response. The press conference is in 2 hours. Serena closes her laptop and starts getting dressed. If he doesn't trust her, she'll do this alone. But she's done being collateral damage in someone else's war. This ends today. The Hansong Tower press room is packed. Reporters, cameras, shareholders, even a few rival chaebol representatives watching with barely concealed glee. Ji-hoon stands at the podium, expression locked in corporate neutrality, while Director Kang watches from the side with the satisfied look of a man who believes he's already won. Secretary Lee hovers near the back, eyes finding Serena the moment she enters. She wasn't supposed to come. Ji-hoon's assistant tried to stop her at the building entrance, but Serena has spent 3 years walking into rooms where she wasn't wanted. One more won't kill her. Ji-hoon sees her. His mask cracks for half a second. Surprise, maybe concern, definitely confusion. She gives him the smallest nod. Trust me. He clears his throat, and the room quiets. Thank you all for coming. I'm aware that a recording has been circulating, one that allegedly contains my voice discussing plans to reduce Hanseong's workforce. Reporters lean forward. This is the moment they came for. The admission, the apology, the beginning of a fall. That recording, Ji-hoon continues, voice steady, is fabricated. The room erupts. Questions shouted over each other. Cameras flashing. Director Kang's face going rigid. Ji-hoon raises a hand. I have forensic evidence proving the audio was constructed from spliced segments of unrelated meetings. But more importantly, I have evidence of who created it and why. He gestures. Serena steps forward, tablet in hand, feeling every eye in the room lock onto her. She projects the analysis onto the room's main screen. Waveforms, splice markers, the undeniable signature of manipulation. 17 distinct editing points, she says, voice carrying. Each one provable with time-stamped source audio from legitimate Hanseong meetings. The recording is a fabrication designed to destabilize leadership before a crucial board vote. And who would do such a thing? A reporter calls out. Serena doesn't hesitate. Someone with access to executive meeting recordings, motive to prevent corporate restructuring, and financial incentive to see Hanseong's stock value drop. Director Kang stands abruptly. This is slander. This is documentation. Serena cuts him off, projecting new files. Offshore accounts tied to shell corporations that shorted Hanseong stock 3 times in 18 months. Each short position opened days before negative press emerged. Press that originated from anonymous sources later traced to burner phones registered to your personal assistant. The room goes silent. Cameras pivot to Kang, whose face has gone from red to white. You have no authority, Kang begins, voice shaking. I have documents, Serena states. Financial records, email chains, testimony from 3 board members who were approached about a coordinated removal effort. And I have motive. You profit when this company falters. You've been embezzling through proxy accounts for at least 5 years. Ji-hoon's voice cuts through the chaos. Director Kang Seong-ho, effective immediately, you are suspended from all Hansong Group activities pending a full audit and criminal investigation. Security moves toward Kang. The man who raised Ji-hoon, who served his father, who held power through decades of carefully cultivated loyalty, is escorted from the room like a criminal. Because now, that's exactly what he is. The reporters swarm with questions. Ji-hoon answers with clinical precision, backed by Serena's evidence, the narrative shifting in real time. By the time the press conference ends, the story is no longer CEO in crisis. It's chaebol betrayal exposed. In the elevator afterward, alone for the first time in hours, Ji-hoon turns to Serena. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, she says. Because if I let you sacrifice me to save yourself, we'd both lose. This way, we both win. My mother is going to have me committed, Ji-hoon says, but there's something almost like relief in his voice. Your mother is going to realize her son just saved the family empire from a parasite, Serena corrects. Give her time. The elevator doors open. Seoul spreads before them through the lobby's glass walls, a city that devours the weak and crowns the strategic. They just survived. Barely. But wars have consequences, even when you win. Serena's hotel phone rings at 3:17 a.m. She answers on the second ring, habit from years of crisis work. Whitaker. I can't sleep. Ji-hoon's voice, stripped of corporate polish. Can I come up? She should say no. Professional boundaries exist for reasons. But she says, "Room 1604," and hangs up. He arrives 12 minutes later in jeans and a t-shirt, looking more human than she's ever seen him. Hair unstyled, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. She opens the door without comment, and he walks to her window, staring out at Seoul's sleepless lights. "Kang was at my father's deathbed," Ji-hoon says after a long silence. "Held his hand when he coded the second time. Told me afterward that my father's last words were about preserving the company legacy." Serena doesn't speak. Sometimes the best intervention is listening. "I believed him," Ji-hoon continues. "Built my entire leadership philosophy around it. The Sustainability Initiative, Project Phoenix. I thought I was honoring my father by evolving his vision." "Maybe you were," Serena offers quietly. "Or maybe I was just naive." Ji-hoon's laugh is bitter. "Kang spent 5 years positioning himself to destroy everything my father built. And I never saw it. I trusted him completely." "Betrayal is worse when it's intimate," Serena says, moving to stand beside him at the window. "I watched my father lose everything because he trusted the wrong person too. CFO he'd worked with for 15 years. They played golf every Sunday." Ji-hoon looks at her finally. "What happened?" "Embezzlement scheme. The CFO needed a scapegoat when auditors started asking questions. My father was senior enough to be believable, loyal enough not to lawyer up immediately." Serena's voice stays level, but the old wound still pulses. By the time he proved his innocence, his health was destroyed. Died of a heart attack at 57. "I'm sorry," Ji-hoon says, and means it. "Don't be." Serena meets his gaze. "His death taught me that trust is a weapon if you give it to the wrong people. But withholding it completely makes you a fortress with nothing inside worth protecting." The hotel room feels smaller, more intimate. Ji-hoon studies her face like he's seeing her for the first time. "Why did you really help me today?" "Because you didn't throw me under that bus when your mother demanded it," Serena answers honestly. "You made the press conference about evidence, not sacrifice. That's rare." "I wanted to," Ji-hoon admits. "For about 30 seconds after your text, I considered ignoring it, making the statement she wanted, cutting you loose." "What stopped you?" "The fact that you were the only person in that entire nightmare who never asked me for anything." His voice drops. "Everyone else wanted something. My mother wanted compliance. The board wanted stability. Kang wanted my destruction. But you just wanted to solve the problem." Serena's chest tightens in a way she doesn't quite recognize. "I'm good at problems. People are harder." "You're good at people," Ji-hoon corrects. "You just don't trust them easily. Which makes you a lot like me." The space between them feels charged suddenly. Seoul glitters below, indifferent to the moment unfolding 16 floors above. Ji-hoon's hand moves, almost reaching for hers, then stops. "I should go," he says, but doesn't move. "You should," Serena agrees, also not moving. He leaves anyway, because they both know that whatever this is, partnership, attraction, the strange alchemy of shared warfare, it's too fragile to rush, and too important to ruin. The emergency board meeting happens 72 hours after Kang's exposure, and the atmosphere is pure carnage. 12 directors sit around the mahogany table, half of them loyal to Kang's old guard faction, the rest trying to calculate which way the wind is blowing. Matriarch Han presides from the head position, a symbolic throne she hasn't occupied in 5 years. Ji-hoon enters with Serena one step behind, not as decoration this time, but as his official strategic advisor, her title formalized in the meeting minutes. The old guard directors glare. One of them, Vice Chairman Choi, speaks before Ji-hoon even sits. "With respect, Chairman Han, internal restructuring should remain internal. Foreign consultants have no place in sensitive corporate governance. Ms. Whitaker exposed a criminal conspiracy that would have cost this company billions." Ji-hoon replies evenly. "I'd say that earns her a seat at the table. It also creates liability," another director argues. "Her methods," accessing private financial records, compiling intelligence on board members, could be construed as corporate espionage. Serena speaks before Ji-hoon can respond. Every document I compiled is legally obtainable through proper channels. I accessed nothing that a competent attorney couldn't subpoena in civil litigation. Her gaze moves around the table. But if anyone here would like to file a complaint, I welcome the discovery process. I have 12 additional files I haven't released yet. The threat lands perfectly. 3 directors shift uncomfortably. Matriarch Han's voice cuts through the tension. The question before this board is not Ms. Whitaker's presence. It is whether we proceed with Project Phoenix or abandon sustainable restructuring in favor of traditional profit models. Vice Chairman Choi leans forward. Matriarch Han, with respect to your late husband's legacy. My late husband. The matriarch interrupts, voice like steel. Built this company by adapting when others refused to change. He transitioned from textiles to shipbuilding when the market demanded it. He would have seen Phoenix as evolution, not betrayal. The room goes silent. Ji-hoon's expression doesn't change, but Serena sees his hand tighten fractionally on the table. His mother just publicly backed him for the first time since this crisis began. The vote, Matriarch Han states, all in favor of proceeding with Project Phoenix, recognizing that short-term profit reductions serve long-term sustainability and market positioning. Hands rise, slowly at first, then with gathering momentum. 7 votes in favor, 4 abstentions. Only 1 vote against. Vice Chairman Choi, whose financial ties to fossil fuel industries are documented in Serena's unreleased files. Motion passes, the matriarch declares. Chairman Han will proceed with sustainable restructuring. This meeting is adjourned. As the directors file out, Matriarch Han gestures for Ji-hoon and Serena to remain. When the room clears, she looks at her son with an expression that's almost vulnerable. Your father would have been proud, she says quietly. Not because you won, because you refused to become the kind of man who wins by destroying others. Ji-hoon's voice is rough. I thought you wanted me to sacrifice her. I wanted to know if you would. The matriarch corrects. A test, Ji-hoon. One your father failed repeatedly. She looks at Serena now. My husband brought a woman into this company once. Used her. Then discarded her when the board demanded it. She sued. We paid her $8 million to stay quiet. The revelation hangs in the air. Serena understands suddenly. The matriarch's coldness wasn't prejudice. It was pattern recognition. She was protecting Serena from her son repeating his father's sins. I won't be my father, Ji-hoon says. No. Matriarch Han agrees. You'll be better. If you're smart enough to keep advisors who tell you the truth instead of what you want to hear. She stands, gathering her handbag. Ms. Whitaker, I owe you an apology. And my gratitude. You saved my son. Perhaps you'll save this family too. She leaves. Ji-hoon and Serena sit in the empty boardroom, surrounded by the residue of corporate warfare. Did that just happen? Ji-hoon asks. Your mother just gave us her blessing, Serena confirms, in the most terrifying way possible. Ji-hoon laughs, the sound edged with exhaustion and relief. Want to get very drunk? I don't drink, remember? Serena stands, extending her hand. But I'll eat celebratory jjajangmyeon with you if you know a place that delivers at 11 p.m. He takes her hand, and doesn't let go immediately. I know a place. They leave the boardroom together, and Seoul spreads before them through floor-to-ceiling windows. A city that tried to devour them and failed. For the first time since that ballroom dance, Serena feels like maybe, just maybe, she's exactly where she needs to be. If you're invested in watching these two navigate the aftermath of corporate warfare and figure out what happens when strategy becomes something more, subscribe now, because the real story is just beginning. The criminal investigation moves faster than anyone expected. Director Kang, cornered by evidence and abandoned by allies who suddenly remember they never fully trusted him, offers a confession in exchange for reduced charges. The Seoul prosecutor's office schedules a press briefing for maximum transparency. and maximum spectacle. Serena watches from Hanseong Tower, streaming the announcement on her laptop. Ji-hoon stands beside her, tie loosened, jacket abandoned somewhere around hour 9 of crisis management. The prosecutor reads the charges with bureaucratic precision: embezzlement, corporate espionage, stock manipulation, fraudulent audio evidence. Each count carries years. Kang's carefully constructed empire of betrayal collapses into a list of crimes. "He's going to prison," Ji-hoon says quietly. Not celebration in his voice, just exhausted recognition. "He earned it," Serena replies. "Men like Kang don't accidentally orchestrate conspiracies. They build them methodically, convincing themselves they're justified the entire time." Ji-hoon turns from the screen. "Do you ever feel guilty for being good at destroying people?" The question lands harder than expected. Serena considers it honestly. "I don't destroy people. I expose what they've already built." "There's a difference." "Is there?" Ji-hoon's gaze is intense. "We just ended a man's career, his freedom, probably his family relationships. Kang has a daughter in medical school, a grandson. Kang tried to destroy thousands of people's livelihoods to protect his profit margins," Serena counters. "His daughter and grandson are collateral damage of his choices, not ours." "I know that intellectually," Ji-hoon says. "But emotionally, I keep seeing him at my father's funeral, the way he cried, how he told me I wasn't alone." Serena moves closer, not touching, but present. "Abusers cry too. Manipulators grieve. It doesn't make the harm they cause less real." "You sound like you're speaking from experience," Ji-hoon observes. "The CFO who destroyed my father." Serena's voice stays level. "He sent a sympathy card when my dad died. Handwritten note about what a good man Robert Whittaker was, how the misunderstanding was tragic." "Jesus," Ji-hoon breathes. "I burned it," Serena continues. "But I kept the envelope. Reminder that guilt and remorse aren't the same thing. Guilt is about how you feel. Remorse is about changing what you do." Ji-hoon is quiet for a long moment. Then, "Kang never apologized. Not once. Even in his confession, he blamed me. Said I was too young, too idealistic, destroying my father's legacy. Which means he still doesn't understand what he did wrong," Serena says. "That's not guilt, that's self-pity." The press briefing ends. Reporters scatter to file their stories. Within minutes, headlines refresh across every portal. Hansong betrayal. Trusted director faces criminal charges. The narrative has shifted completely. Ji-hoon is no longer the unstable young CEO. He's the leader who rooted out corruption. "We won," Ji-hoon says, but it sounds like a question. "We survived," Serena corrects. "Winning looks different." He turns to face her fully, and the exhaustion in his eyes is profound. "What does winning look like?" Serena considers the Seoul skyline through the window, the city that chews up the weak and crowns the strategic. "Building something better than what we tore down. Making sure the next person in your position doesn't have to fight the same war." "Project Phoenix," Ji-hoon says. "Project Phoenix," Serena agrees. "The company dies to be reborn. That's what your father's legacy should actually be. Not preservation of the past, but courage to evolve." Ji-hoon's hand finds hers. This time, neither of them pulls away. "Stay," he says simply. "Not as a consultant, as a partner. Help me rebuild this." Serena's heart does something complicated in her chest. "I don't do permanence well," she warns. "I don't do trust well," Ji-hoon counters. "Seems like we're even." And in that moment, surrounded by the wreckage of corporate warfare and the fragile hope of reconstruction, Serena makes a choice she swore she'd never make again. "Okay," she says. "Let's build something." The week after Kang's arrest should feel like triumph, but Hanseong Tower carries the atmosphere of a building after a bomb. Employees walk on eggshells, unsure which executives knew about the conspiracy and which were genuinely blindsided. Stock prices stabilize but don't soar. 3 board members resign for personal reasons. The media cycles through the scandal hungrily, dissecting every detail. Serena finds Ji-hoon in his office at midnight, still working, surrounded by restructuring proposals and sustainability reports. He looks up when she enters, and the weariness in his face has deepened into something more permanent. "Can't sleep?" she asks. "Can't stop thinking," he corrects. "Every decision I made for the past 5 years, I keep replaying them, wondering which ones Kang influenced. How much of my leadership was actually mine versus manipulation." Serena sits across from him, not behind her usual consultant's distance, but in the chair beside his. That's the insidious part of betrayal. It contaminates memory, makes you question everything, including your own judgment. "How did you get past it?" Ji-hoon asks. "After your father?" "I didn't, not completely," Serena admits. "I just learned to separate the contaminated memories from the clean ones. Your decision to pursue sustainability wasn't Kang's idea. It came from research, market analysis, your own values. But he shaped the board's response to it," Ji-hoon argues. "Made it harder, created opposition where there might have been support. Which means you fought harder for something you believed in," Serena counters. "That's not contamination. That's proof of conviction." Ji-hoon's laugh is hollow. "You always have an answer." "Not always," Serena says quietly. "I don't have an answer for what happens next. Between us." The shift in conversation is like stepping off solid ground. Ji-hoon goes very still. "What do you mean?" Serena takes a breath, choosing words carefully. "I meant what I said about staying, about building this with you. But I'm not naive. Right now we're bonded by crisis, by surviving something together. When the adrenaline fades, when things get normal, you think this is just battlefield attraction," Ji-hoon finishes, voice flat. "I think we need to be honest about what we actually know about each other outside of corporate warfare," Serena says. "I know you drink your coffee black, work obsessively, and carry your father's watch like a weight, but I don't know your favorite music, or if you want kids, or what you do on Sundays when there's no crisis to manage." Ji-hoon studies her for a long moment. Then he stands, walks to his office sound system, and presses play. Classical music fills the space. Debussy, piano, something melancholic and beautiful. "This is what I listen to when I need to think without words getting in the way," he says. "I do want kids eventually, but I'm terrified of repeating my father's mistakes, being married to the company instead of present for them." He moves back to where she sits, doesn't reclaim his chair. "And Sundays, when there's no crisis, I go to Namsan Tower. Not the tourist areas. There's a hiking trail on the backside where almost no one goes. I walk it for 3 hours and pretend I'm not responsible for 20,000 people's livelihoods." Serena's throat tightens unexpectedly. "That's the saddest Sunday routine I've ever heard." "It's peaceful," Ji-hoon defends, but there's a smile tugging at his mouth. "What about you? What does Serena Whitaker do when she's not dismantling corporate conspiracies?" "I read," Serena says. "History mostly. Wars, revolutions, political collapses. I like seeing the patterns, understanding how things fall apart so I can recognize it in real time." "Also the saddest hobby I've ever heard," Ji-hoon observes. "We're a pair," Serena acknowledges. The moment stretches, Debussy filling the silence between them. Then she asks the real question. "Are you sure you want me to stay? Not as a crisis consultant, but as someone in your actual life? Because once this becomes personal, professional boundaries get complicated." Ji-hoon kneels so they're eye level, his hands finding hers. "I'm sure," he says simply. "I don't know what this is yet, or what it becomes. But I know I don't want to go back to walking that trail alone every Sunday." "What are you proposing?" Serena asks, heart doing that complicated thing again. "Date me," Ji-hoon says. And despite everything, the exhaustion, the trauma, the weight of recent weeks, there's something almost boyish in his expression. "Properly." Let me take you somewhere that's not a crisis management meeting. Let's figure out if we work when nothing's on fire. Serena should say this is a terrible idea. Should cite power dynamics, professional ethics, the fact that half of Seoul thinks they're already sleeping together. But instead she says, okay, but if you take me somewhere that requires heels higher than 3 inches, I'm reconsidering everything. Ji-hoon laughs, and it's the first genuine sound of joy she's heard from him in weeks. Deal, he says. Saturday. I'll pick you up at 6. That's 4 days away, Serena points out. I know, Ji-hoon says, still holding her hands. But if I don't make you wait, you'll think I'm not serious. He's right. And that's terrifying. Because it means he understands how she thinks, how she protects herself, how hard it is for her to believe anything good without testing it first. She stands, and he rises with her. For a moment, they just look at each other, and Serena thinks about ballroom dances and manufactured crises, and how sometimes the best things come from the worst beginnings. Saturday, she agrees. 6 o'clock. She leaves before either of them can second-guess the decision. But as she walks to the elevator, Debussy still playing faintly from his office, she realizes something fundamental has shifted. They're not just surviving anymore. They're choosing each other. And that's infinitely more dangerous than any corporate conspiracy. Saturday arrives with the kind of perfect autumn weather that feels staged. Crisp air, golden light, leaves turning colors Seoul's concrete jungle rarely showcases. Serena changes outfits 3 times before settling on something that says, I didn't try too hard, while absolutely trying. Dark jeans, cream sweater, leather jacket, heels exactly 3 inches. Ji-hoon arrives at 6 o'clock precisely, driving himself in a car that's nice but not ostentatious. An Audi, charcoal gray, the kind of vehicle that doesn't scream chaebol air. He's dressed down too. Black jeans, dark blue sweater, no tie. For the first time since she met him, he looks like a man in his 30s instead of a CEO performing permanence. You didn't bring security, Serena observes, sliding into the passenger seat. I gave them the night off, Ji-hoon says. Told them I needed space. They think I'm having a mental health crisis. Are you? Serena asks. Probably, Ji-hoon admits, pulling into Seoul traffic. But it's the good kind. He drives them out of the city, away from Gangnam's glass towers and into neighborhoods that feel older, more lived in. They end up in Seongsu-dong, a district of converted warehouses and small cafes that cater to artists instead of executives. The restaurant he chooses is tiny. 12 tables, handwritten menu, the kind of place you'd never find without local knowledge. How did you find this? Serena asks as they settle into a corner table. Secretary Lee recommended it, Ji-hoon admits. He said if I was going to date someone who terrifies me, I should at least do it somewhere honest. I terrify you? Serena's eyebrow rises. Completely, Ji-hoon says without hesitation. You see through everything. It's attractive and horrifying in equal measure. The food arrives in waves, simple, perfectly executed, nothing trying to be more than it is. They eat and talk, and for the first time their conversation isn't about strategy or survival. Ji-hoon tells her about studying at Stanford, feeling caught between Korean expectations and American individualism, never quite belonging in either world. Serena talks about growing up in her father's shadow, always the daughter of Robert Whittaker, never just herself until she left for graduate school in London. Do you miss him? Ji-hoon asks. Your father? Every day, Serena says honestly. But I miss who he was before the scandal more than who he became after. The betrayal broke something in him, made him suspicious, withdrawn. By the time he died, I'd already lost him. Ji-hoon reaches across the table, covers her hand with his. I'm sorry, he says simply. Don't be, Serena replies, but doesn't pull her hand away. It taught me that people are either builders or destroyers. And I decided a long time ago which one I wanted to be. You're a builder, Ji-hoon says with certainty. Everything you did with Hansong, you didn't just expose Kang. You gave me a path forward. That's construction, not destruction. What about you? Serena asks. Builder or destroyer? Ji-hoon considers the question seriously. I'm trying to be a builder, but I inherited a legacy built partly on destruction. My father's generation didn't always ask permission or consider consequences, so maybe I'm more like a renovator, keeping what's salvageable, tearing down what's rotten. That's the hardest kind of building, Serena observes, because you have to destroy things people love. Yeah, Ji-hoon agrees quietly. And they hate you for it, even when it saves them. After dinner, they walk along the Han River, the path lit by street lamps and the glow of Seoul's skyline across the water. It's cold enough that Serena's breath mists, and without asking, Ji-hoon shrugs out of his jacket and drapes it over her shoulders. The gesture is so traditionally Korean, so protective and courteous, that she almost protests, but doesn't. Can I ask you something? Ji-hoon says after they've walked in comfortable silence. You just did, Serena points out, but smiles. Why did you really stay? Ji-hoon asks. You could have left after the press conference, taken payment, gone back to your international clients. But you stayed even before I asked. Why? Serena stops walking, looks out at the river. This is the question she's been avoiding asking herself. Because for the first time in 8 years, I didn't feel like I was just cleaning up other people's messes, she says finally. I felt like I was building something that mattered, with someone who actually understood the cost. She turns to face him. And because when you had the chance to sacrifice me, you didn't. That's rare. In my experience, people choose self-preservation. You chose integrity. I almost didn't, Ji-hoon reminds her. I came very close to making that statement my mother wanted. But you didn't, Serena repeats. That's what matters. Not the temptation, the choice. Ji-hoon steps closer, and the space between them feels charged with something more than attraction. Recognition, maybe. Or the strange intimacy of two people who've seen each other at their worst. I want to kiss you, he says quietly. But I'm terrified I'll ruin this. Then don't, Serena says, but she's smiling. Don't kiss me because you're caught up in the moment. Kiss me when you're sure. Ji-hoon searches her face. Then he takes her hand, threads their fingers together and says, Okay, I can wait. They walk back to the car like that, hands linked, and Serena thinks about how intimacy isn't always physical. Sometimes it's choosing to wait, choosing to build slowly, choosing someone even when it's complicated and risky and terrifying. When he drops her at her hotel, Ji-hoon walks her to the lobby door but doesn't ask to come up. Thank you, he says simply. For what? Serena asks. For giving me a reason to leave the office before midnight, Ji-hoon says. For reminding me that I'm more than Hansong's CEO. Serena rises on her toes, those 3-inch heels helping, and kisses his cheek, brief and soft. You're welcome, she says. Now go home and sleep. You look exhausted. She leaves him standing in the lobby and doesn't look back until she's in the elevator. When she does glance through the glass doors, he's still there, watching her with an expression she can't quite name, but feels in her chest anyway. This is dangerous, she thinks. This is the kind of thing that ends badly. But for the first time in 8 years, Serena Whitaker decides that maybe some risks are worth taking. Project Phoenix launches 3 weeks later with the kind of fanfare reserved for either historic achievements or spectacular failures. Serena stands beside Ji-hoon at the press conference, no longer as a crisis consultant, but as senior strategic advisor, a title formalized with contracts and board approval. The initiative commits Hanseong Group to full carbon neutrality by 2035, transitioning 2 shipyards to renewable energy manufacturing and establishing a $500 million fund for employee retraining. The reaction is mixed. Progressive media calls it visionary. Conservative shareholders call it reckless. Competitors watch nervously, trying to determine if this is genuine transformation or elaborate public relations. But within Hanseong itself, something shifts. Employees who spent months wondering if they'd have jobs suddenly have a roadmap, a future that doesn't involve obsolescence. Serena watches Ji-hoon during the Q&A session, observing how he's changed in the weeks since Kang's arrest. He's more confident, less defensive, comfortable acknowledging uncertainty instead of projecting false certainty. When a reporter asks about the risks of such aggressive restructuring, he doesn't deflect. The biggest risk, Ji-hoon says clearly, is not changing at all. My father built this company by adapting when adaptation was uncomfortable. I'm honoring his legacy by refusing to let comfort destroy what he created. The answer is perfect. Respectful to the past, committed to the future. Serena feels something warm in her chest watching him. After the press conference, they have 30 minutes before the next meeting, a rare window of breathing room. Ji-hoon pulls her into his private office, closes the door, and just looks at her for a moment. "What?" Serena asks, self-conscious under his gaze. "I couldn't have done this without you," Ji-hoon says simply. "Any of it. And I don't just mean the strategy or the press conference. I mean, remembering that I'm a person, not just a position. You would have figured it out," Serena says, but her voice is softer than usual. "Maybe," Ji-hoon allows, "but it would have taken longer. And cost more." He crosses the space between them, and this time when he asks, "Can I kiss you?" there's no hesitation in Serena's nod. The kiss is careful at first, tentative, testing, but deepens into something real and aching and complicated. When they break apart, both slightly breathless, Serena realizes her hands are fisted in his shirt. "That was," she starts. "Overdue," Ji-hoon finishes. "By approximately 6 weeks. Serena laughs, and it's the freest sound she's made in months. "Your math is correct." A knock interrupts them. Secretary Lee, apologetic but firm. "Chairman, the board liaison is waiting." Reality crashes back. Ji-hoon steps back, adjusting his tie, professional mask sliding into place with practiced ease. But his eyes, when they meet Serena's, hold warmth. "Tonight?" he says quietly. "Dinner? My place. No crisis, no agenda. Just us." "Okay," Serena agrees. "But I'm bringing wine, even if I don't drink it. It's civilized." "Deal," Ji-hoon says, then follows Secretary Lee to the next obligation. Serena stays in the office for a moment, catching her breath, touching her lips where his mouth just was. This is real now. Not battlefield attraction or crisis bonding. Real, messy, complicated personal involvement with someone whose life is inextricably tied to an empire of glass and steel. Claire calls 30 seconds later, as if sensing through some best friend telepathy that something significant just happened. "Did he kiss you?" she asks without preamble. "How did you—" Serena starts. "Because you sound different," Claire interrupts. "Less like you're negotiating a hostage situation and more like you're a human woman who just got kissed by a beautiful man." "He is beautiful," Serena admits, "and terrifying and complicated." "So are you," Claire points out, "which means you're either perfectly matched or headed for spectacular disaster." "That's encouraging," Serena says dryly. "I'm not here to encourage," Claire replies. "I'm here to remind you that you deserve this. Happiness, connection, whatever this becomes. You've spent 8 years building walls. Maybe it's time to try building something else." The words land with unexpected weight. Serena blinks back something that might be tears, if she allowed herself such things. "When did you become wise?" "I've always been wise," Claire says. "You just never listened before." The call ends. Serena looks out at Seoul, at the city that tried to chew her up and spit her out, and realizes she's not just surviving anymore. She's living, building, choosing something beyond safety. And that's the most terrifying thing she's done yet. Ji-hoon's apartment is not what Serena expected. She anticipated penthouse opulence, designer everything, the sterile perfection of professionally decorated spaces. Instead, She finds a home. Warm wood floors, bookshelves packed with actual books, a kitchen that looks used, a balcony overlooking Seoul with furniture worn comfortable rather than pristine. "You look surprised," Ji-hoon observes, taking the wine she brought. "I am," Serena admits. "This doesn't look like a CEO's apartment. It looks like a person lives here." "Is that a compliment?" Ji-hoon asks, amused. "It is," Serena confirms. She moves to the bookshelf, scanning titles. History, philosophy, Korean literature, some Western classics. "You actually read these?" "Why would I own books I don't read?" Ji-hoon counters from the kitchen where he's opening wine for her and pouring juice for himself. "Most people keep books for decoration," Serena says, "especially people whose time is worth $10,000 an hour." "My time is worth significantly more than that," Ji-hoon corrects, handing her a glass. "Which is why I'm careful about how I spend it. Reading is meditation for me." They eat on the balcony. Simple food Ji-hoon cooked himself, which surprises Serena even more than the apartment. Pasta with garlic and olive oil, salad, bread. He admits he bought from the bakery downstairs. "You cook," Serena states. "I have to eat," Ji-hoon says pragmatically. "And I got tired of restaurant food when I was at Stanford. Learned to make maybe 6 dishes competently. This is one of them." "What are the other 5?" Serena asks. "Kimchi jjigae, scrambled eggs, grilled cheese, curry rice, and something I call crisis pasta, which is whatever's in the refrigerator thrown together," Ji-hoon lists. Serena laughs. "That's the saddest repertoire I've ever heard," says the woman who admitted she survives on hotel room service and airport food, Ji-hoon points out. "Fair," Serena concedes. After dinner, Ji-hoon puts on music. That same Debussy from his office, piano drifting through the apartment like memory. They move to the living room, and there's a moment of awkwardness where neither knows quite what to do without the structure of meetings or agendas. "Dance with me," Ji-hoon says finally. "For real this time. No cameras, no strategy. Just because." Serena's heart does that complicated thing again. She sets down her wine and steps into his arms. They move slowly, neither of them particularly skilled, but it doesn't matter. This isn't about technique. It's about choosing proximity, choosing vulnerability, choosing to be seen without armor. "I keep thinking about that first dance," Ji-hoon says quietly. "In the ballroom. How you didn't hesitate." "I was assessing threat level," Serena admits. "Making tactical decisions." "And now?" Ji-hoon asks. "Now I'm just dancing," Serena says. "With someone I..." She trails off, unsure how to finish. "Someone you what?" Ji-hoon prompts gently. Serena takes a breath. "Someone I didn't plan on. Someone who makes me want to stay in one place instead of running to the next crisis." Ji-hoon's arms tighten fractionally around her. "Is that terrifying?" "Completely," Serena confirms. "You?" "I'm terrified I'll become my father," Ji-hoon admits. "That I'll get so consumed by Hanseong that I'll fail at everything else. My father loved my mother, I think. But he loved the company more. She spent 30 years competing with a corporation for his attention." "You're not your father," Serena says with certainty. "How do you know?" Ji-hoon asks. "Because you're here," Serena says simply. "Cooking pasta in your apartment, dancing to Debussy with someone who terrifies you. Your father would have had another business dinner. You chose this." The music shifts to something slower, more melancholic. Ji-hoon pulls back just enough to look at her properly. "I want this to work," he says with raw honesty. "Whatever this is, I don't have a roadmap for how to date someone while running a chaebol through massive transformation, but I want to figure it out." "I don't have a roadmap either," Serena admits. "I'm good at short-term crisis intervention. Long-term relationship building, not my expertise." "Then we'll figure it out together," Ji-hoon says. "Make mistakes, have terrible fights about scheduling conflicts, disagree about whether work-life balance is actually achievable." "That sounds exhausting," Serena observes. "It does," Ji-hoon agrees. But also worth it, maybe. They stop dancing, but don't step apart. Serena looks up at this man who's somehow become essential in just weeks. His careful intelligence, his willingness to be wrong, the way he carries enormous weight with grace but admits when it's too heavy. Okay, she says. Let's be terrible at this together. Ji-hoon kisses her then. Different from the office kiss. Deeper, slower, like they have time instead of stolen moments. When they break apart, both smiling, Serena thinks about ballroom dances and manufactured crises, and how sometimes the worst beginnings lead to something unexpectedly real. Stay, Ji-hoon says. Not forever, just tonight. I'll make you crisis pasta for breakfast. Serena should say no. Should maintain boundaries, keep things slow, protect herself from moving too fast. But instead she says, only if you promise the pasta isn't actually terrible. I promise nothing, Ji-hoon says, but he's grinning. Except that I'll try. And somehow, that's enough. 3 months into Project Phoenix, Matriarch Han requests a private meeting with Serena. Not a family dinner, not a board function, a one-on-one meeting at a traditional tea house in Insadong. The invitation arrives via formal card, hand-delivered by a driver, the kind of old-world formality that carries unspoken weight. Claire helps Serena prepare like she's going into diplomatic negotiations. Matriarch Han doesn't do social calls, Claire warns. This is either a peace treaty or a declaration of war. Encouraging, Serena says dryly. Wear something that says, I respect your authority, but I'm not intimidated, Claire advises. And for God's sake, let her pour the tea first. It's a dominance thing. Serena arrives at the tea house 5 minutes early. Enough to be respectful, not so early it looks anxious. Matriarch Han is already there, seated in a private room overlooking a courtyard garden, wearing a modern hanbok in shades of charcoal and cream. She looks like power distilled into human form. Ms. Whitaker, the matriarch greets in perfect English. Thank you for coming. Matriarch Han, Serena responds with a respectful nod, settling across from her. Your invitation was unexpected. I imagine many things about our family have been unexpected, the matriarch says with the ghost of a smile. She pours tea with ritualistic precision. Green tea, fragrant, the cup's delicate porcelain that probably cost more than Serena's monthly rent. They sip in silence for a moment. Finally, Matriarch Han speaks. My son is happy. For the first time since his father died, he comes to family dinners and talks about things other than quarterly reports. That's good? Serena ventures, unsure where this is going. It is, the matriarch confirms. But it's also terrifying for a mother who has spent 6 years watching him become a machine. Serena sets down her tea carefully. With respect, Matriarch Han, I'm not sure what you're asking. The older woman's gaze is sharp, but not unkind. I'm not asking anything. I'm acknowledging. You did what I failed to do. You reminded him he's human. The admission hangs between them. Serena wasn't expecting vulnerability. Your son is remarkable, she says carefully, with or without my involvement. He is, Matriarch Han agrees. But remarkable people often destroy themselves trying to be worthy of their inheritance. My husband did. I watched him work himself into an early grave, convinced that rest was weakness. She refills their tea. When Ji-hoon became CEO at 32, I was terrified he'd repeat that pattern. And for years he did. Worked until midnight, slept in his office, attended every meeting, approved every contract personally. He still works too much, Serena observes. But now he occasionally leaves at 8 p.m., the matriarch counters. Goes hiking on Sundays, cooks dinner in his apartment instead of ordering from the Shilla Hotel. Serena realizes with mild embarrassment that Matriarch Han knows exactly what's happening between her and Ji-hoon. We're taking things slowly, she offers. You're taking things at the right pace, the matriarch corrects. Which tells me you're not interested in his wealth or his position. You're interested in him. I am, Serena confirms simply. Matriarch Han studies her for a long moment. I was unkind to you initially. I apologize. The apology is so unexpected that Serena almost drops her tea. I understand why you were protective, she says. Your son is your legacy. You wanted to ensure I wasn't a threat. You are a threat, the matriarch says bluntly, but the good kind, the kind that forces evolution instead of enabling stagnation. She reaches into her handbag and withdraws a small box. My husband gave this to me on our 10th anniversary, before he became consumed by the company, when he still remembered to celebrate things. Inside the box is a delicate jade bracelet, clearly antique, clearly priceless. Serena's hands stay in her lap. Matriarch Han, I can't. It's not a gift, the older woman interrupts. It's a loan, an acknowledgement that you're part of this family now, whether formally or not. When you tire of my son's workaholic tendencies and his terrible attempts at cooking, you return it. And if I don't tire of those things, Serena asks quietly. Matriarch Han's smile is small, but genuine. Then perhaps it becomes yours permanently. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. You've been dating for 3 months. Ask me again in a year. Serena accepts the box, moved in a way she didn't anticipate. Thank you, she says, for trusting me with him. Don't thank me yet, the matriarch says wryly. Chaebol families are complicated. There will be cousins who resent you, shareholders who question your influence, media that scrutinizes your every appearance. I've handled worse, Serena says. I believe you, Matriarch Han says, which is why I'm not worried. They finish their tea, and the conversation shifts to lighter topics. Project Phoenix's progress, Seoul's changing architecture, the strange experience of watching a city modernize while trying to preserve tradition. By the time they part, Serena feels something unexpected. Not just acceptance, but alliance. When she tells Ji-hoon about the meeting that night, he goes very still. She gave you her anniversary bracelet? On loan, Serena clarifies. She was very clear about that. Ji-hoon pulls her close, and his voice is rough when he speaks. My mother has 3 daughters-in-law. She's never given any of them jewelry from her personal collection. What does that mean? Serena asks. It means she chose you, Ji-hoon says simply. And in my family, that's everything. Serena thinks about jade bracelets and tea ceremonies, and how sometimes acceptance comes not with grand gestures, but with quiet acknowledgement. She's building something here, not just with Ji-hoon, but with an entire complicated family structure she never expected to navigate, and terrifyingly, she wants it to work. 6 months after the ballroom dance that changed everything, Hansung Group's annual shareholder meeting takes place under very different circumstances. Project Phoenix is exceeding projections. Stock prices have recovered and climbed. 3 competitors have announced similar sustainability initiatives, making Ji-hoon an unlikely industry leader, and standing beside him on the podium, no longer as crisis consultant but as permanent strategic advisor, is Serena Whitaker. The meeting is professional, efficient, triumphant in its quiet way. But what matters happens afterward, in the emptying ballroom where 6 months ago everything began. Ji-hoon finds Serena standing in the exact spot where they first danced, and there's something intentional about her positioning. Nostalgic? He asks, coming to stand beside her. Reflective, Serena corrects. Thinking about that night. How I thought I was just avoiding a scene. And instead you walked into a complete disaster, Ji-hoon finishes. The best disaster of my life, Serena says, and means it. Ji-hoon turns to face her properly, and there's something nervous in his expression that doesn't match his usual composure. I have a question, he says. You're terrible at questions, Serena observes. You usually just make statements and wait for people to comply. This one I need to ask properly, Ji-hoon says. He takes her hands. Serena Whitaker, will you stay? Not for 6 months or a year. Permanently. Will you build this with me? The company, a life, whatever comes next? Serena's throat tightens, That's not a question. That's several questions pretending to be one. Is the answer the same for all of them? Ji-hoon asks. Serena thinks about jade bracelets and 3 a.m. phone calls and terrible crisis pasta. Thinks about a man who chose integrity over convenience, who cooks dinner in his apartment, who holds enormous power but admits when he's wrong. Thinks about how 6 months ago she was running from permanence, and now she's running toward it. Yes, she says simply. To all of them. Yes. Ji-hoon kisses her in the empty ballroom. And this time, there are no cameras, no strategies, no manufactured crises. Just 2 people who found each other in the worst circumstances and decided to build something better. When they break apart, both smiling, music still playing faintly from the cleaning crew's radio, Ji-hoon says, "Dance with me?" "Always," Serena answers. They move across the floor, out of sync, imperfect, beautifully human. And Serena realizes that this messy, complicated, terrifying commitment is what winning actually looks like. Not corporate victories or strategic triumphs, but choosing someone every day, building something that matters, dancing not to avoid a scene, but because you want the song to never end. Seoul glitters beyond the windows, indifferent and eternal. But in this moment, in this ballroom where everything began, 2 people who never planned on finding each other rewrite what legacy means. Not an empire built on power, but a partnership built on trust. And that's infinitely more valuable than any fortune. The song ends, but they keep dancing anyway. Because some promises don't need contracts. They just need 2 people brave enough to say yes.